And in the context of naval warfare, nations are posturing to demonstrate their power.
Post-war institutions of the World War II, they did not meet the reality that we have as of today.
Russia has already squandered this opportunity by committing the heinous, mistaken crime of attacking Ukraine.
Operates huge resources. It's like the mainland of evil.
Russia's biggest nuclear warhead? Well, nobody knows what it's like or whether it actually flies. No one actually knows, because it's from the Soviet times.
But the world is going like step by step, and it seems that everybody wants to stop that, but the world goes to this edge.
Hello, and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Centre and NGO UN Course. And I'm your host, Matt Wickham. And in this episode, we talk about global warfare in contemporary conflicts, the challenges, reality, and forecasts. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video, and don't forget to press subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Valeriy, chairman of the board of UCMC and ambassador of Ukraine to the United States in 2015 to 2019, highlights the ongoing battles that transcend traditional territorial conflicts, encompassing cyberspace and naval arenas. He emphasizes that attempting to interpret current events through the lens of the Second World War is a flawed approach which hinders our comprehension of the current war. Let's listen to more to what he has to say.
There are already attacks and counterattacks on a global scale ongoing in the cyberspace war. And there are also those things which we don't know about. But I can tell you, from what I know, the United States, Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia are active and engaged in a cyber war. This space is ongoing. Furthermore, we have the contest for dominance in outer space, and that persists, albeit less visible to the general population. And in the context of naval warfare, nations are posturing to demonstrate their power. To China, it's obvious that they cannot counteract the US with its two aviation carriers, which are currently beneath the Middle East in a current conflict zone. The only forecast we can make when it comes to a third world war is that people don't really understand it, because their understanding of what it was and how it developed during the Second World War is precisely not what we have today. This is for sure.
He further elaborates on the contemporary drive among many nations, particularly emerging ones and those aligned with Russia, to secure a significant role on the global stage. This aspiration, he says, is intertwined with the enduring quest of politicians to consolidate their authority and exert influence, spanning both to the realms of business and geopolitics.
Experts I respect tell me that the factors that have led to the current situation were put in place several years ago. And the answer is actually quite straightforward. Everyone wants to have their share of influence, and that's how it's all come about. When I say everyone, I mean those who are fighting for this influence, as well as new countries that are quite vocal about it. Russia has already squandered this opportunity by committing the heinous, mistaken crime of attacking Ukraine, and Putin made this incredible error all on his own. He dragged Russia to places where conditions are completely different. Russia has, in essence, become a vassal of China. However, these factors came together in the sense that politicians wanted power, and they wanted the power that stands behind other politicians. And they wanted to share the world in terms of business and geopolitical influence. However, for many decades before this, there was still sufficient crises. And there are and were many conflicts, both local and huge, such as the Vietnam War. This was a major conflict during a time when there was no such thing as a global war.
Charlie discusses Russia's nuclear capabilities, or lack thereof. He tells how initially nations were apprehensive about the nuclear blackmail threat, but later questioned its validity. He also shares his underwhelming outlook for the upcoming NATO summit next year.
In terms of the nuclear component, we understand that there were publications about how our partners were reacting to Putin's threats of nuclear blackmail. However, we understand that China, as well as India, took into account that Russia's biggest nuclear warhead, well, nobody knows what it's like or whether it actually flies. No one actually knows, because it's from the Soviet times and Russia has never demonstrated it in use. All they do is drag Putin's briefcase around. However, that is only a connection, and no one knows if it will actually work. By the way, we had another option regarding a pact on the official level, such as the UK, Poland and Ukraine coalition. There was an idea that, unfortunately, died on the vine, but one of the reasons for this was that they tell me they didn't want to annoy NATO because we are trying to join NATO, and such a move could cause division whilst they are considering us for possible membership. So then in principle it had to stop in order not to tear up our application from the inside. However, if they do not accept us into NATO in Washington, then something needs to be decided for next year. And in your opinion, do you believe that they would admit Ukraine to NATO? Well, we are working very hard on it, but as of now, I believe there's only a 20% chance that the stars will line up. We need to prepare for this and make sure that we are ready. And I believe that this plan is the most important thing for our government right now. Plan B is the agreements and security guarantees, at least in the public sphere. I can see them working on it. Perhaps is the fact that, from the side of NATO countries, they're not ready to invite us. However, my position is that if we miss it next year in Washington and it's pushed back to God knows when, we must consider it a case closed.
Our next guest, Yuriy Shcherbak, politician, writer and ambassador of Ukraine to Israel, the US and Canada, draws a poignant parallel between the realms of war and science. He explores the human capacity to forge agreements while acknowledging the intricate moments when diplomacy falters. Let's take a listen.
And to my deep understanding, the wars in general, not always, maybe always, they do not depend on human will. It's like the volcano, you know? We are walking around the volcano, we are living there, and all of a sudden, there's the explosion and the volcano becomes active. We don't know why. There are biological issues. As microbiologist, I can tell you when you launch one microorganism to the good environment, they are getting multiplied, the number of the population grows, then they come to the peak, and then the worst starts. They start destroying each other. And it's not something due to their will. Just the same about the wars. Well, it seems to us that we can make up some agreements, we can come to an agreement. However, there are some moments. Who could stop the First World War? Because it seems that it came out of nothing. Well, there was no such a reason to start the war immediately, when there was some misunderstanding from the point of view of Russian Tsar. He didn't understand what Wilhelm is doing, or the King of England. So it was like global misunderstandings. However, the war started, and it did not depend on the will of one person. And the same is here. We should not think that we can manage all the processes. We don't. There are some processes that are managing us. And this is some kind of in-depth, maybe the processes that were not studied till the end. I won't develop this topic because on a very deep level, it has to be examined. What is that all about? Because it seems to me that in addition to economical, political, social reasons of wars, we all know these reasons, like incompatible some provisions, or let us say so, some kind of a status, then it's not in line with the time that has changed, and so on and so forth. However, the main thing is that there is something else we cannot manage. We cannot understand what's that about. But the world is going like step by step. And it seems that everybody wants to stop that, but the world goes to this edge.
He next tells of how many of the institutions established in the aftermath of World War II no longer adequately address the complexities of our contemporary world, and how the once dominant influence of the United States and Europe has now waned, and new players have emerged, transforming the geopolitical landscape. This shift has been likened to a return to a modern-day Game of Thrones, where the landscape is chaotic and power dynamics are undergoing a significant, deadly, and brutal reshuffling.
All the mechanisms, all the institutions, post-war institutions of the World War II, they do not meet the reality that we have as of today. There's absolute redistribution of powers, and when earlier on there was a big seven, G7, who came together, they owned more than 50% of the VAT global. Now, just calculate 30%. That is, they started losing the power that the America was owning. There was a huge rise after World War II. It had the world that was almost like mono world. Not, even the Soviet Union, it was a competitor. However, everyone knew that the USA and Western countries are more powerful. However, not now. Everything is in the past. Europe doesn't play that role, and they cannot play the role they used to play for 1,000 of years of history. Now, others came to the arena. In my opinion, we are coming back to the Middle Ages. I'm just bringing the example, and maybe that will be clear for you. This is TV series. How's that called? The War of Thrones. So this is describing the world today. This is full destruction of international rules, international behavior, standards, international standards. The world becomes chaotic. There's redistribution of powers. And there are countries that are just trying to pretend, usually those are aggressive countries, that could ensure a certain level for their population. However, they demand already a share of the global power, and they are pretending to get that with all the things. It doesn't matter, but now I would like you to pay attention to the fact that it's not the axe. It's like the territory of that. I even, want to make up a map. Russia, with its back, is connected to China. China to Korea. And Russia also with the Korea have joint boundaries, and also Iran. And it's very, very dangerous, because this huge, massive, it can operate and operates huge resources. It's like the mainland of evil.
We discussed how in Poland there is a continual discourse on the future of both Poland and Ukraine, even in the event of NATO's potential decline. Poland is determined to endure and is actively striving to forge a coalition that can effectively counter Russia influence. Let's take a listen.
I would like to mention that in Poland all the time they are discussing the future of both Poland and Ukraine. And they see the best, I guess, intellectual powers of Poland on the Union. And unfortunately now we are on the worst stage of, our relationship is on the worst stage. At first it was euphoria and all of a sudden it went down. I won't mention about that here right now. It's just some things. However, there is a project like 12 countries, you know perfectly, and Polish people all the time, they are promoting the idea of Rich Pospolita and the other similar Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania, part of Belarus, as they see it, and from Croatia to Estonia and to Finland. So they see this alliance, and I think that it might be a certain branch from NATO, because I don't think that NATO will be fully destroyed. However, the western part, Polish people are treating Poland with great mistrust. They have very bad relationship. And France, and that part of NATO, they are speaking about that directly. They are fighting for creating the bloc that would stand against Russia after the end of the war. That's what I'm mentioning.
You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Yuriy course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find more information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!